Mahatma Gandhi, a real-life historical figure whose entire leadership was influenced by the Apple of Eden. Jesus Christ, who wielded a Shroud of Eden, and after his crucifixion, his disciples tried to resurrect him with said Shroud of Eden. Adolf Hitler, a man who wielded a piece of Eden, whilst also being controlled by the literal Templar order. Let's go with one more. JFK, a president who is being controlled by the Templars, an assassination orchestrated by both assassins and Templars, and an Apple of Eden at the heart of it all. These are just a few examples of the many ways Assassin's Creed has altered real-life events and real-life people to fit the work of fiction disclaimer that appears at the start of every single game in the series. But all of this is pointless, and it brings me to my point. Why did I mention any of this? Well, because Assassin's Creed Shadows, the 14th mainline entry in an 18-year franchise, is now a victim of manufactured outrage, blatant misinformation, and an absurd number of nitpicking, especially to do with historical accuracy. And why? Well, the real answer that isn't related to the game is because it's an easy way for these big accounts to make a profit out of this, especially with how you are able to monetize your tweets on Twitter via engagement. So naturally, accounts with blue ticks have been more prevalent these past few years, and they love a good old engagement bait post. There's also YouTube, a platform where once you hit a very easy threshold, you can monetize your content, and with Assassin's Creed Shadows being a very popular franchise and also a very hot topic, it's only natural for people to farm content about the game, even if it's false narratives. You may have heard about a certain individual who's very good at this, who, let's just say, has a very large fan base. Now, for all we know, this game could well and truly be terrible and miss the mark, and that is a valid concern to have. But the reality is, the game features one specific individual, a real person that existed in history, and that is Yasuke, a black man. And because he's now one of our two main characters, and yes, the game has two main characters, I guess Naue is somehow invisible to some people, that's where most of the criticism, well, if you can call it criticism, it's blatant racism, is being directed towards. Now, I just want to show you some of the popular misinformation and manufactured outrage for this game. If you have no idea about any of this, I highly suggest you click off this video now, because it will save your sanity, you won't have to waste brain cells on this stupidity, and you can go about your day in peace. Oh, and if you are somebody that thinks I'm a Ubisoft shill, because that seems to be the easy cop-out response, I'm merely somebody giving my thoughts on the Assassin's Creed franchise as a whole. You know, the franchise that I've been playing for 18 years now. This has nothing to do with Ubisoft, a failing company that they are right now. In fact, I've made quite a fair share of videos pointing out terrible things, and the mess that they've managed to create in recent years. Here's a video from Twitter, or X, with an absolutely horrendous ratio of likes to views. It shows a player entering a religious site in Assassin's Creed Shadows, and of their own free will, they decided to destroy objects within a shrine. Now, any sane person would recognize this as just part of the Assassin's Creed gameplay loop, or the fact that this game now has destructible environments, and move on. But of course, for the special crowd, this is now considered a grave and offensive sin. This person even claims, what kind of Assassin's Creed game lets you destroy an actual religious site? Well, quite a few of them actually. Assassin's Creed Valhalla lets you raid, pillage, and desecrate Christian churches as a core gameplay mechanic. Assassin's Creed Origins lets you storm countless temples, kill the worshippers there, and destroy objects within them. Assassin's Creed 2, you've definitely heard this one before, you literally fistfight the fucking Christian Pope inside the Vatican. Assassin's Creed 1 allows you to climb all over mosque walls and domes with Islamic writing all over, using them as parkour playgrounds. And if you think that's not desecration, in Assassin's Creed Unity, you can quite literally throw bombs inside the Notre Dame Cathedral. Why would they let us do that? And why is it suddenly now an issue? Well, it's simple. It's outrage that's manufactured. The people complaining that you can do this in Assassin's Creed Shadows will never mention the countless times it has happened in previous games. Why? Well, because most of them are simply not educated enough on the franchise. In fact, this controversy has put into perspective that there are a lot of tourists out there, and more importantly, acknowledging the past games would break the narrative that they are going for. Christian churches, mosques, Greek temples, Egyptian temples, sacred spots, shrines, you name it, have all been treated the same way in this franchise for years. But now, because the game takes place in Japan, suddenly the rules have to be different? As expected though with this clip, the majority of these videos are deliberately cutting out some important context to mislead people. For example, when you approach a religious site in Shadows, the game literally gives you the option to pray and show respect. In fact, doing so grants in-game benefits as a reward for honoring the site. Yet once again, these people chose to ignore that. The player walked up to the shrine, they saw the option to pray, and instead of showing that in the video tweet, they cut it out entirely. The game is actively pushing you to respect these shrines, yet this clip shows the player going out of their way to do the opposite. That's on them. As the official Doom account once tweeted out a while ago, you control the buttons that you press. This tweet is a standout. Still can't believe Ubisoft created a game in 2025 where a black man goes around killing Asians. You know, if anything, this person kind of exposed themselves as somebody that does not play video games. It's strange because there are numerous examples of games featuring a character from one ethnic background fighting against enemies of a different background, but the problem is only when a black person is involved. I mean, the entire premise of the Hitman games revolves around a white man going to a plethora of countries to kill enemies native to that country. Here is Agent 47, a white man wearing a kimono assassinating Japanese people in Hokkaido, Japan. Max Payne 3, a game that depicts a white man in Sao Paulo killing Brazilians. A literal Assassin's Creed game you might have heard of, Assassin's Creed Revelations, depicts Ezio Auditore, everybody's favorite character, who is an Italian man traveling to Constantinople and killing Turks native to their country. Resident Evil 5, Chris Redfield, a white man in Africa murdering native inhabitants. I can go on and on. Far Cry 2, Far Cry 3, the GTA series, Neo, Uncharted. Why are we not keeping the same energy for these other games? Or does it only apply to black main character leads? I mean, what are we doing here?
This is no different from when people back in the day started petitions to ban Grand Theft Auto 5 over exaggerated controversy. The same crowd that used to mock moral panics in gaming has now become the very thing they used to complain about.
I recently got into one of the most brain-dead exchanges on Twitter about the desynchronized message that appears in every single Assassin's Creed game to date. Here is somebody that has no ties to gaming at all, blatantly spewing out misinformation, even saying they've suddenly removed the penalty for killing civilians. But unlucky for this person, he was talking to somebody that played the game early and had experienced the message appearing. It's exactly as it has been in every single Assassin's Creed game to date. You kill one enemy, a message appears but nothing happens. You kill multiple, the game will desynchronize you. This tweet is a prime example of somebody trying to push a false narrative, only for it to massively backfire on him, as evident by the lack of likes compared to views. Once again, a video game tourist being exposed. Here's another tweet that gained a lot of attention, and yes, you are seeing a pattern. A lot of this is happening on Twitter, a platform that advocates for misinformation. This person complains that Yasuke can kill all sorts of Japanese people, but not French people, as shown in this clip when this player strikes at an NPC who is clearly not Japanese. Now, first of all, isn't it convenient that this tweet says Yasuke can kill, but for some strange reason leaves out the fact that Naue can do the literal same thing? Second, I'm pretty sure that this is not a French character, but Portuguese. For a game that people seem adamant to get historically accurate, you should probably know that, considering what time period this game takes place in. But I digress. The point is, you simply cannot kill this character. And why is that? Is it because he's white? Well, no. It's because he's a fucking essential character / merchant. And if you've ever played any type of video game ever, you most often cannot kill essential NPCs. In this case, he's a merchant, and he's somebody that sells you items. Why on earth would an Assassin's Creed game let you kill a merchant? What makes this even dumber is that there are Japanese merchants in Shadows that you also cannot kill. Yet somehow that doesn't seem to get mentioned, nor have you seen that at all, because that is not a narrative that's worthy of being pushed. And if you played any recent Assassin's Creed game, you'd know that the merchants are always invincible. The fact that this is an actual tweet blows my mind. Once again, it's another blatantly false narrative being pushed. This one is my favorite, and probably the most ridiculous of them all. Watermelons and cherry blossoms. Yes, that is the tweet. Now, this tweet received 13.7 million views, and of course the like to view ratio is terrible as expected, because this user did not expect this tweet to go the way it did. And for proof that this is engagement bait, here's the tweet creator boasting about it getting a lot of engagement and impressions. Now, this tweet shows Yasuke walking through the street, and there's watermelons on his left and some cherry blossoms in the horizon. Now, for the average gamer, they would not give a fuck. In fact, that's pretty much it. Nobody gives a shit. But for some people, this is the worst thing that they've ever seen. Now sure, watermelon season and cherry blossom blooms in this game are not season accurate, which makes their presence an anachronistic oversight. But is that seriously the nitpick that we're going with? Oh, and also, if you scroll down, you'll see one of the big accounts that's been pushing false narratives blatantly being racist and mentioning fried fucking chicken, because Yasuke is in the picture. This isn't even criticism anymore, it's just racism, plain and simple. But regardless, going back to watermelons and cherry blossoms, this is a franchise that is not 100% historically accurate. Instead, it's a franchise based on historical fiction. I'll say it again, historical fiction. I'm sure these people have been told this hundreds of times, but will of course turn a blind eye. There's a difference between historical fiction and historical accuracy. If you play any of the Assassin's Creed games for simply 100% historical accuracy, you are better off reading a book or reading some documents. I could quite literally point out the historical inaccuracies inaccuracies in every single Assassin's Creed game since its release. In fact, here's some recent ones. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, a game ridiculed with historical inaccuracies. Stave churches appear in Valhalla, despite not existing for another 400 years. Castles which did not exist in England during Valhalla's time period are somehow present. Julius Caesar in Origins casually brushes off Pompey's murder, when in reality, every historical source describes him mourning it, believing no Roman should be executed by a foreign ruler. The real-life Pazzi conspiracy attack occurred inside the Il Duomo, but Assassin's Creed 2 has it taking place outside of it. Was it historically accurate when Leonardo da Vinci actually created a tank and a flying machine? Was it historically accurate when Al-Mualim, a fictional version of the real Rashid ad-Din Sanan, decided to clone himself during the Third Crusade? Here's one that should be considered offensive but is not. Did the Lisbon earthquake that happened in real-life history, which killed 30,000+ people, happen because Sheikh Cormac removed an object from a pedestal beneath the Carmel convent which caused the city of Lisbon to crumble? I can go on and on. Blackbeard, the historical figures in Syndicate, Machiavelli, Edward Braddock, George Washington, and so many more. These are all examples of real people being altered to make historical fiction. But I guess, you know, watermelons being in the wrong season is where we draw the line. Another manufactured controversy making the rounds revolves around this woman. This woman has paint on her forehead and shaved eyebrows, which of course has sparked yet another false narrative. The usual suspects are posting things like, "Here's your Ubisoft Japanese girl, bro," implying that she's unattractive. But what they're actually mocking is hikimayu, a real beauty practice from this era of Japanese history, where women shave their eyebrows and apply black paint to their foreheads. Rather than taking a moment to educate themselves, these people find it easier to ridicule the character, get the engagement revenue, and turn her into a meme. That's the entire controversy. Yet another desperate reach fueled by ignorance. What makes this even more hypocritical is that the same people calling Shadows disrespectful to Japan are now openly disrespecting Japanese culture themselves without even realizing it. These are the kinds of people pushing these narratives. If you dig a little deeper, you'll find that many of them have questionable histories, from racism to criminal records and even worse. But that's probably why they've made Twitter their home. It's a platform that enables and amplifies this kind of behavior. Good job, Elon Musk. Another example of manufactured outrage has to do with one of the allies in the game. So as blunt as this sounds, there is a fat Japanese woman in the game who excels in combat. Now instantly, those people have jumped onto this and have straight up made up the fact that this is a female sumo wrestler. And sure, her skill Rakishi does refer to sumo related moves, but it also can translate to a powerful warrior. But you know, that narrative does not sound better for those people to push. However, recently the official Assassin's Creed Shadows art book was leaked online, and without showing it on screen, this female Japanese ally is referred to as a Japanese warrior monk, not a female sumo wrestler. So even if the skill means a sumo related move, the literal official description for her character states that she is not a sumo wrestler. In fact, the word sumo wrestler is not even mentioned at all. This is once again a false narrative being pushed, and sadly it's a loud narrative, as evident by a very popular YouTuber talking about it. This is something that happened quite a while ago, near when this game was first announced. There was a quote-unquote Japanese historian who went by the name Kenji Yamamoto, and he started tagging the anti-woke people in his tweets. By the way, I'm not woke or anti-woke, I just play the fucking game like a normal human being. Anyway, it turns out that he was not in fact Japanese. This fake Japanese historian went by the name Garrett. He even fabricated claims and managed to get his misinformation cited as a credible source by those looking to push a narrative. Yet another example of a manufactured outrage. And once he got exposed, well, he suddenly claimed it was all a social experiment, and has since disappeared from Twitter entirely. Then there was the so-called Cancel Assassin's Creed Shadows Japanese petition that gained traction. Now do remember I said Japanese petition, and to be fair it got a lot of signatures, but that was because people thought it was a valid concern in Japan. But as it turned out, the petition was not created by Japanese people at all. It was started by white Westerners living in the US, another blatant case of outrage being artificially manufactured. Now if you still cannot see how people are spreading outright falsehoods, even pretending to be Japanese in a pathetic attempt to cancel a game, then you might be part of the problem too. Another false narrative I've seen being popularized online is that Yasuke is being hidden in the story trailer, which I thought was hilarious to see. Now for those people that have seen my story trailer analysis video, you know that this is definitely not the case, considering I spent a lot of the time in that video talking about Yasuke in the trailer. In fact, in the story trailer, Yasuke was present in the cutscenes for a full minute. I mean, there's even 52 seconds of straight up non-disrupted footage of Yasuke. I'm pretty sure Yasuke is shown in the story trailer more or at least the same as Naue. But once again, a false narrative being pushed. So in conclusion, there's way too many false narratives being pushed about this game, and I did not even mention all of them. In fact, I probably talked about 15% of them. Now the reason that this is frustrating is because if this game is bad because of, poor writing, lack of innovation, the open world or whatever, which I could see happening, because I haven't really liked an Assassin's Creed game since 2018, which was 7 years ago, there will be a bunch of people that will point to the easy target, which is Yasuke. Now do I want this game to be good? Yes, absolutely. I don't want any game to be bad. But do I think it will be good? I have no idea. I'm not an idiot where I will blindly say yes. All I will say is to just stay vigilant of what you see online, because if it's on Twitter, I can guarantee you it's most likely a false narrative being pushed by people with blue tick accounts for the purpose of engagement and revenue. Of course, there are plenty of real valid criticisms, but unfortunately those get overshadowed by the masses of misinformation, racism and nitpicking. Now I leave you with this cutscene from Assassin's Creed 1 18 years ago.
Some of the stuff I'm seeing in the Animus, sometimes it seems wrong. Untrue, like the history is off somehow. It doesn't
what, Mr. Miles? Match up with what you read on an online encyclopedia? What your high school history teacher taught you? Let me ask you something. Do these supposed experts have access to secret knowledge kept hidden from the rest of us?
There are books, letters, documents, all sorts of source material from back then. Some of it seems to contradict what the Animus is showing me.
Anyone can write a book, and they can put whatever they want on its pages. Anything. Used to be, we thought the world was flat.
Some people still do.
Yes, and they publish books about it. Or that the moon landing was a hoax. I believe there's also a book claims the world was created in 7 days. A bestseller, too.
Where's this going, Doc?
The point, I suppose, is that you shouldn't trust everything you hear, everything you read. What's that your ancestors said? Nothing is true?
Everything is permitted.
Yes, exactly. It's part of what makes the Animus so spectacular. There's no room for misinterpretation.
There's always room.
Touché, Mr. Miles.